Hi guys, today I've got heaps on the workbench. So I'm going to start off with painting some charms that I need to finish off, and then I have also got some. Oh, let me give it back. Um, I have got some other figurines, cake toppers to finish off. I'll turn them your way. Um, Sign, and then I might get onto some sculpting. But yeah, chuck some questions in the chat if you've got anything you want to know, anything about what I'm doing. Otherwise, it'll probably be fairly quiet. If I remember, I will tell you what I'm doing as I go, but more than likely, it'll mostly be pretty quiet. Yeah. So at the moment, I usually use Posca pens for filling in really tiny, strong details like eyes. Um, and then I'll get onto the acrylic paints for the rest of the details. So I'll see if I can show you who I'm finishing painting today. Yeah, so this charm here, you see him there. See if I can work out a way that you can see what I'm doing. Maybe see better, because I still need to be able to see as well. Yeah, so this guy here, I'll need some black paints. Nothing special about the paints I use other than them just being acrylics. They last really well and adhere to the polymer clay really nicely. I use lots of tiny little fine detail paintbrushes, but yeah, nothing overly special about the paintbrushes that I use. Today will be a little bit of an experiment going live. Normally I'd have an audio book or a podcast that I'd be listening to, but obviously I won't do that today while I'm live. So I'll see how I go with the quiet. The quiet's probably actually good for me. Gives me time to think. But yeah, happy for you to jump on in with questions if you have any. Either about the making or about what I do, my processes, how to place an order yourself if you ever want to. For this particular charm, I might just talk you through what's happened up to this point. So customers place the order and reply to their order confirmation email with photos of the pet. This one's actually for a gift. So they also let me know when they needed it by. And then once I have the photos, I get started. So on the inside, the hook is actually built into the clay, and then I sculpt around it. Once it is sculpted, that's when I bake it to effectively cure it from there. And then once it's hard, it's all baked. Then, sorry, just trying to find the paintbrush that I want. Then, yeah, once it's all baked from there and cooled is when I can then paint the details on with acrylic paints. process after that is I will then send a photo to the customer, make sure they're happy, make sure I haven't missed any details, that it's a really good representation the of the pet, and then I can finish it off and seal it from there. And then I just need to pack and ship it to the customer at that point. So you can see I'm just doing some shading. It's really hard to focus on there. Ooh, where is the camera? There it is. So the reason this is the first time I am going live, I actually have had the business for 11 years now, but it did start off being called Heartbeat Handicrafts, and it actually I didn't focus on pets or weddings right from the beginning. It wasn't even solely polymer clay, it was more just a side hustle while I was actually an occupational therapist in country South Australia. And so it was a bit of just a creative outlet for me at the time. I did everything from random bits of jewelry, silicone beads for a while there, candles, even a point where I was making some like lip balms and all sorts. Anyway, I then started to really experiment with polymer clay. Loved polymer clay as a medium to work with, but yeah, it started off more so just it was more so just pretty generic accessories um, at the time, and then I started experimenting with cute little animals, particularly dogs, and then I started getting the requests from there about, oh, can you do something that looks like my specific dog? It was more so earrings originally, and yeah, so I started doing that, and yeah, it became fairly well known for the custom pet like earrings, and then yeah, that's where the requests for weddings started to flood in. So people saying, "Oh well, if you can do my dog for earrings, could you do them for cufflinks for our wedding? I'd really love the dog to be part of it in that way." And so yeah, started doing that, and then there was just once I made that as an offering, then just got more and more requests for cufflinks. So cufflinks was definitely the entry into all things pets and weddings. Um, but yeah, more requests from there. Then I really wanted something that, like, if there were no suits being worn, like something that brides could wear. And that's where I created the idea for the bouquet charms. And then I was asked about if I could do full body toppers, like cake toppers, figurines that would last forever. And then I started doing that. And then more and more people wanted those. And then I was like, you know what? I'm doing less and less general gifts and accessories. And yeah, it was becoming more and more all about weddings. So that's when I really focused in on the wedding side of things. And yeah, haven't looked back. That was also the time when I thought, you know what, this is what I want. This is what people are starting to know me for. But I found that my business name didn't really reflect that. I was still called Heartbeat Handicrafts. This was back in the early 2000s, and I thought, you know what, this is what people want. I'm loving doing it. Let's go all in. So that's when I did a major rebrand, and I didn't know what the new business name was going to be at the time. Going into the rebrand process, but yeah, worked with a brand mentor. Came up with a few suggestions, and I landed on Pawfect Love being the best option there, and I haven't looked back from there really. So that was, I think I went through that process 2022 or 2023, maybe 2023, I don't know. And yeah, it's just been growth since there. One of the more recent developments, I have 3 children. I actually had 3 children in just over 2 years, but yeah, I had the business well before they came along. So the first version of the business started in 2015. That's when it was Heartbeat Handicrafts. But I actually didn't have children until 2019. My first son was born. And then in 2021, so a little over 2 years later, I then had twins. So things got very busy, but the business survived through that time. And yeah, now the twins, a boy and a girl, they have just started school. So now I've actually got a tiny bit extra protected work time to be able to focus, to get work done and focus on the business. So yeah, it's sort of taken me through till this time to have sort of the time to focus. But yeah, I thought this was one of the projects, and one of the getting uncomfortable things that I wanted to do was to start sculpting and making live. So here we go. So as you can see, hopefully, I know it's tiny. Hopefully you can focus on it there. I've applied all the paint details, and now I'm just finishing off with a little dot of white, which gives a much more realistic look to the eyes with a shine. And I'm almost ready. I'd already done the heart stamp for this particular memorial charm option. Now I need to apply the little ring for it. And then we're getting really close. Oh, actually, I just noticed on this photo, it's a bit of a lighter colour under the neck there. That up. Like I was saying before, I won't seal this before I send progress photos to the customer, just to make sure, see if they've got any feedback, any changes that are needed. And then, yeah, once they give the approval, go ahead, that is when I will seal the paint. So these charms go on to ribbons so that they're really nice and versatile for how to display them beyond just the bouquet and the wedding day. They're just slipped onto the ribbon like this. And we are ready to take a photo to send to the customer. And for that, I'll take it, given it's 3D, I'll get the shine. This customer contact me by email, so I just have to search them up on email and send them the progress photos, and then I'll wait to hear back from them. And while I'm waiting, I'll start on new ones. This one's through. We'll wait to hear back from that customer while we move on to the next one. So another couple of charms. We'll just find the reference photos that I'm working on for these two charms in my recently saved folder. Here we go. Alright, here's one of them. So again, I'll start off with the little pupils and go from there. Then the Posca markers, starters. Oh, let's get some pink out for this little dog. Mm. Pink up, and I'll get a light paintbrush again. Get a couple of the rings out for once these ones are finished. I find that at the end of the day, my desk, unless I've made a good effort to put things back away, if I get them out, can be a little bit chaotic. Tiny details on these. I'll talk you through after what the rest of my day looks like. I've got a bunch to paint and finish off of ones that I've already baked. And then what I'll do is I'll start on some new orders to do the sculpting. and then they can go into the oven that way. From there, I'll see if I've got any feedback, if I need to make any changes, or if I can go straight to finishing off some of the ones that I was waiting on like approval. And it's time to start packing some orders ready to take to the post office. So that's what the rest of my day sort of looks like. I'll get through as many as I can. I've got a huge big list, but I try and make a bit of a realistically what I can get through in the one day, and then schedule all other orders out. And I always check especially for like most of my orders are for weddings, I always ask when the wedding date is, and I can help shuffle and prioritize based on that. So if there's someone that's only discovered my work really quite last minute, then I often make sure that I've got capacity to do some of those last minute orders. But I do in general encourage people to get their orders in like around the 3 to 6 months before the wedding, because that way I do have that ability. I still start it when I can, but it means that I have capacity. Like I just said, if someone only discovers my work just before their wedding, I try and keep some space that I can squeeze some in. But I don't want everyone doing last minute orders. Otherwise, I won't be able to do that. It just helps me triage and prioritize that way, which is actually probably one transferable skill from my life as an occupational therapist that is very, very helpful. Always had to prioritize referrals based on needs and urgency, because there was always a wait list for services. So yeah, I guess it's given me a really good entry into how I manage orders based on date and priority, and gauging how long I'm going to take and what my capacity looks like. At least now with the kids all in school, it's a little bit more predictable with what time I actually have to work available to me. So I'm finding it a bit easier to manage my week. So I tend to, unless you run your own business, there is so much more admin than you would expect. So the way I'm trying to split up my week at the moment is I'm trying to do 3 full days of making. So at the moment I've got that as Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then 2 days that are more the behind the scenes. So one that's more being the CEO, so that's your planning, vision, as well as like the accounting, bookkeeping, all the necessary, but the running the business side of things. So I tend to try and do that on a Tuesday, and then on a Thursday is focused on mostly marketing and creating and managing content. So that's Thursdays. Yeah, and then if I have urgent orders, I'll still try and get to those on the more admin days. But if I don't prioritize those things, then yeah, I just find that I could be consumed by just always making, and then behind the scenes gets messy and I'm less efficient in that way. So I guess that's another skill that's come from allied health or occupational therapy background, is that desire to always be evaluating how I'm doing things and determining if there's any improvements, always looking at how can I change things, how can things be going better, that quality improvement constantly, and even just always evaluating, is this the best way to do it? Yeah, that's another transferable skill. Mm. Do you have any questions for me? Pop them in the chat. I will try to answer them as we go. Can you see that there? The dog's nose. Really patchy, so I'm just trying to get it as accurate as possible. Normally I would start off with a black nose and add the pink, but this particular dog's nose was almost more pink than black. So I started off with a pink nose, adding the black details on top of that. They're a bit different from my normal process. But that's the good thing about custom made, is everything is specific to your actual pet, not starting from some kind of mold and adjusting. It's like from scratch. Ah, so just going back to how my week looks now that the kids are all in school. I try and keep those school hours specifically for work, and yet I work from home, and it could, some people say that how am I not tempted to just go do housework and everything else. I guess out of necessity, having such little time initially, I fiercely try and protect that school hours as my work time, and then try and squeeze in all the other things that need to happen outside of work. I try and really be disciplined. Like if I wasn't working from home, I couldn't just be doing the washing or anything else at work. So yeah, trying to I guess it hasn't actually even been that hard for me to stay disciplined with that. Probably out of necessity. Had too much to get done in too few hours. But yeah, that's how I protect that time for work time only. And then the everything else that needs to be done around the home is outside of work hours. And also try occasionally I will squeeze in some exercise during work hours and switch things around. But that's another thing that I'm trying to make sure I fit in outside of school hours. So I'll try and get, like this morning I got up early when my husband was getting up early to go to work, and just did a run on the treadmill here. And that way I could get ready with the kids, get them off to school, and then get straight home into work that way. Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for, and so far that seems to be continue on that way. One of the other things that's really helpful about me having working for myself and working from home is that my husband does shift work. So he has like a rotating 5-week roster. So he does night shift and day shift, and like 12-hour long shifts. So it just does not work for things like childcare and school hours and all those sorts of things. So having me work from home has been, it's been really, really important having that flexibility once we had kids. Obviously before that it didn't matter so much, but now it does. So I'm just about to finish off these charms now. I might actually leave it there for today, and I will pop on again another day when I'm doing some making, probably sculpting next time.